This conference will now be recorded.
Now, so in the previous session, we have discussed about the SOQL queries. We have discussed how can we prepare the SOQL queries. And how can we execute it by using query editor, and how to see the results we have discussed. Now, today we'll see how to execute that SOQL queries by using Apex programming. That means through programmatically, how can we execute these SOQL queries? We'll see practically in this case. Okay, now. So now here executing this SOQL queries through program by using Apex program. Okay, now. We can invoke or execute the SOQL queries by using Apex programming. Apex programming also. Now, whenever you are executing that SOQL queries through Apex programming has divided the SOQL queries into two categories. Apex programming has divided the SOQL queries into two categories. The first one is static SOQL queries. First one, static SOQL queries. Second one, dynamic SOQL queries. Okay. As part of Apex programming, SOQL queries has been subcategorized into two types. Okay. As part of Apex programming, SOQL queries has been subcategorized into two types. First one is static SOQL queries. Second one, dynamic SOQL queries. Then what is this static SOQL query? What is this dynamic SOQL query? How to prepare static SOQL queries? How to prepare dynamic SOQL queries? How to execute static SOQL queries? How to execute dynamic SOQL queries? How to get the results from static SOQL? How to get the results from dynamic SOQL? We'll see practically in this case. Okay, now. So now let's see in this case. Let's see. Now, first one, static SOQL queries. As part of Apex programming, SOQL queries has been subcategorized into two types. The first one, static SOQL. Then what exactly is static SOQL? Static means what? Fixed. Static means fixed. So that means what? As part of static SOQL queries, the query will be a fixed query which can't be editable at runtime. We can't make any changes in the SOQL queries at runtime. We can't embed any columns at runtime. We can't add any conditions to the query at runtime. There is no such possibility. Okay. So now as part of static SOQL queries, the query will be a static query. It's a fixed query which can't be editable. We can't include any conditions and columns to the SOQL query at runtime. This is the functionality of static SOQL query. Okay, now in this approach, the SOQL query can't include any columns and conditions at runtime. Upon preparing the query, we have to specify the required columns and conditions. During the preparing the query itself, we have to specify what will be the columns you would like to fetch, what will be the conditions you would like to apply along with that SOQL query. We can specify that. Now, so now as part of this static SOQL query, how to prepare this one? the syntax. Now, for example, assume that I want to execute an SOQL query. Like select ID, comma name, comma rating, comma industry, comma annual revenue from account. Assume that this is my query. If you want to define this query as a static SOQL query, just you can able to embed this SOQL query in the square braces. That's it. Done. Whenever you are going to be writing this SOQL query or embedding this SOQL query inside this square braces, this is called as static SOQL. This is the syntax. The syntax is we have to specify that square braces and then we can write that SOQL query. That means what? Static SOQL query should be always enclosed inside that square braces. For example, I'm indicating here. Now, static SOQL query should be always enclosed inside the square braces. Okay, static SOQL query should be always enclosed inside that square braces. It may be any query, whatever you want, any object query also. Whenever you are enclosing the query in the square braces, then it is called as static SOQL. Now, then how can we execute this static SOQL query? We no need to execute this static SOQL query manually. Whenever I'm writing the query in that square braces, automatically Salesforce will execute that. Automatic execution. We no need to invoke the static SOQL query manually. That will be executing by Salesforce automatically by default. So whenever I'm enclosing that SOQL query in that square braces, automatically Salesforce will execute that SOQL query by default. Okay, so that static SOQL query should be always executed automatically. We no need to execute this. Now, let me give the notepad. Static SOQL queries will be executed automatically by default. We no need to execute this SOQL query manually. That will be executing by automatically by default. So in this case, okay, in this case, so whenever this SOQL query has been executed, okay, then it is returning some records, right? Yes, it is returning some records. So whenever this SOQL query returns some records, how can we collect? How can we place? How can we place it here? Now, here two scenarios will come into the picture. Upon executing this SOQL query, I'm collecting the data from the account object here. For example, this is a query. Now, in my table, I'm having only one record. That means in my account table, I'm having only one account record. Then what will happen? How many records it will return? Only one record. Because in the table, I'm having only one record. Is that record will be returning by my query. This is the first case. Suppose if the table is having some 10 records, in my account table, I'm having 10 account records are there. When I execute this query, how many records it will return? 10 records. Up to maximum of how many records SOQL query will return? 50,000. Each SOQL query can return maximum of 50,000 records. Okay. Now, in this case, if the SOQL query returns one record, what we can do? If the SOQL query returns multiple records, then what we can do? Now, let's see this case. Now, in the case one, if the SOQL query returns only one record, then what we can do? It is the first case. The second case, case two, if the SOQL query returns multiple records, then what we can do? what we can do. These are two cases will came into the picture. Okay, if the SOQL query returns only one record, then what we can do? If the SOQL query returns multiple records, if the query returns multiple records, then what we can do? Let's see the practical part now in this case. Now, for example, assume that I'm preparing this SOQL query. I'm preparing this SOQL query. Select ID of the account, name, rating, industry, annual revenue from account. We can split the query to the multiple lines also, no problem. We can do that. That possibility is there. Now this query will returns only one record. Then what we can do? Suppose if the query returns one integer value, then how can we store? By defining one integer value. In this integer x, what we can store? One integer value. Suppose I want to store one string value, then what we can do? We can define a string variable, some string s equals to, we can store some value. But my query is returning one record. What record? Account record. How can we store? Account variable. Okay, account ACC. Because so why it is returning account record? Because my query is collecting the data from account table. Please collect one account record from account table. So it is returning only one record. So I would like to store this value by defining a variable. Okay. So now here in this case, whenever I'm going to preparing the static SOQL query will be collecting the data from the respective object by executing the query automatically. If the query returns only one record, it returns a record in the form of a single object of that associated type. Okay, if the query returns only one record as a result, then we can store that record by defining the variable of associated type. Because my query is returning what record? Account record. Because why? I'm collecting the data from account table. So it is returning account record. So to store one single account record, I'm defining one variable account ACC. Account means the ACC means a variable which is of type account, which can store one account record inside this. Then how can we fetch this information right now? For example, this is account record is returning right now. This is account record. So it is having this ID and the name, rating, and the industry, and the annual rate. These are the values. For example, whatever the account record it has written, these are the details of this account record. ID is 001 some 334455. Assume that this is the ID of this account. The name is some Ram Kumar. Rating value some heart. Industry some technology. Annual revenue some 45 lakhs. Assume that this is the record it has written over here. Okay, this is the record it has written. My query has written only one record. This is the record. So in this case, what happened? This particular record will be storing inside my variable. Okay, this record will be storing inside my variable. Then how can we collect each and every value? How can we collect? So these are what? Columns. What is this column? This is ID column. This is what? Name column value. This is what? Rating column value. This is what? Industry column value. This is what? Annual revenue column value. These are the various column values are available. Then how can we fetch this information? Now I want to collect this data. If the query returns only one record as a result, I want to verify if acc.id not equals to null. That means if the account record ID is not null, that means account record ID is there. That means the record is there. Then I want to collect that information. Okay, because whenever I'm collecting the data, if the table is empty, query returns what? Zero records, nothing, empty. If nothing is there, then what we can display? For that one, whenever if you want to fetch the data, first of all, we have to know in that variable whether the record is exist or not. If the record is exist, then only we can able to fetch that information over there. Now, now, so now here in this case, what we can do? Now, so in this case here, whenever I'm executing this query, if the query returns only one record, then I'm going to be collecting that record and I'm storing inside a single variable. Okay, account ACC. Because account ACC is a variable which can able to store only one record. Now, so in this case, I'm verifying that in this particular account record, if the ID is not null, that means ID value is there. That means record is there. I would like to display this information. System.debug account ID. I want to show acc.id because this is the acc variable dot id, acc dot name, acc dot rating, acc dot industry. Like that, we can able to fetch each and every column value. System.debug account name is acc.name. System.debug industry is acc.industry. That's it. Simple. Over. If the SOQL query returns only one record as a result, then we can store that record by defining a variable of that associated type, and then we can able to fetch each and every field value separately by using object name dot field name. Because record is available inside this ACC variable. So, but this is not a single value. This is having so many values are there. So we have to use object name dot field name. Object name dot field name, object name dot field name. Like that, we can able to collect each and every field value one by one, one by one, one by one. That possibility is there. This is the way we can able to implement if the SOQL query returns only one record as a result. Okay, now let me explain this. Now, if you know this point, 2 points, then entire SOQL queries concept is simple. No, another thing. Entire SOQL queries is based on these 2 points. Now, if the SOQL query has returns only one record as a result, then we have to store the result by defining the variable of the associated type. For example, I'm writing this SOQL query. Select ID, name, rating, industry, annual revenue from account. So now it is returning only one record as a result. In this case, we can store this record by defining a variable called as SAC. Anything. We can define a variable of account type because it is returning one account record. To store the account record, we are using account variable. And then we can able to fetch each and every field value. If SCC.id not equals to null, that means if the record is exist, then I want to display this information. System.debug account ID is I want to show SCC.id. System.debug account name is SCC.name. System.debug annual revenue is in any manner we can able to fetch SCC.annual revenue. System.debug industry name. I want to show that SCC.industry. Like that, we can able to fetch each and every column information by using this system.debug statement, and we can print it on your debug log file. That possibility is there. So if the SOQL query returns only one record as a result, then we have to store that record by defining a variable of that associated type. So we have to define a single variable and then we can able to store. Like for example, if I'm querying the data from the position object, then what we can do? Select ID of the position, name of the position, location, position status from position object. Then in this case here, you know how to prepare this SOQL query. In the last session I told you clearly. So now it is returning only one position record. Then what we can do? How to store? We have to define a position variable, position underscore C, some variable name. So in this variable I would like to store that result over here. And then we can verify if pos.id not equals to null. If the position record ID is not null, that means position ID is there. That means record is there. Then we can able to show the message system.debug. Position ID is I want to show the position. System.debug position name is system.debug position status is I want to indicate position status. Like that, we can able to fetch the required information. I'm showing on one standard and custom. We will see practical examples also. For your information, I'm giving like this here. I'm giving these examples. Okay. So now whenever we are going to be executing the SOQL query, if the query returns only one record as a result, then we have to store the result by defining that associated variable. And then we can fetch each and every column value and we can display. Okay, now come to the second case. Suppose if the table is having multiple records, then my query returns multiple records here. If the query returns multiple records, then what will be the case? What we can do? Suppose I want to store one account record. What we can do? Account SCC. In this SCC variable, we can define one account record. I want to store 5 account records. What we can do? We have to use list of account. LST accounts. Like that, we can define a collection. Simple concept. If it is a single, go with that variable type. If it is multiple, go with that collection. Simple concept. It may be 2 records, 10 records, 1000 records, whatever. Go with collections. List collection. Simple concept. If it is one, go with that variable directly. If it is more than one, go with that collection. That is list collection. Now, in this case, if the SOQL query returns more than one record as a result, then I want to go with that list collection. Let's see. For example, I'm executing this same kind of SOQL query. So I'm writing this SOQL query. Now this query returns two records to me over here. This query returns two records to me. It is returning two records to me over here. It is returning two records to me. The first record ID is 001446677. Name is some Suresh. Rating value some warm. Industry some finance. Annual revenue value some 70 lakhs. Two records it is written. Then what we can do? How can we fetch? Whenever if the SOQL query returns multiple records as a result, then what we can do? If the SOQL query returns multiple records as a result, then we have to store these results by defining the list collection. So we have to define a list collection over here. So we have to define a list collection. List of what? Account. LST accounts. You can give any name whatever you want. I'm indicating this. List of account. LST accounts. In this case, what happened? If the SOQL query returns multiple records, then we have to store that records by defining a list collection of that associated type. Don't use set, don't use map. Why? Because SOQL query will be always returning the result in the form of list collection, not set, not map. Then, once the records are available in the form of this list collection, how it will identify each and every record? This record is index position 0. This record's index position is 1. Because that already you know that each and every element inside the list collection will be getting identified by using index position starting from 0. So that here, how can we iterate this one? Now let's see practically. How many number of records the query has written? I want to know. System.debug records count. How many number of records this query has written? I want to know that. LST accounts dot size method. You know the list collection. In that one, you know each and every method one by one. You know that. So in order to know how many number of records are there or how many number of elements are there, we are using size method. So it is returning the value as 2. So 2 records has been returned. How can we collect each and every record? I'm verifying this. If the collection is not empty. Why? Because if the collection is not having any records, then why do we need to iterate that collection? If the collection is empty, nothing to iterate. For that reason, I want to know if there is some records in the collection, then only I want to iterate the collection from starting to ending to collect each and every record. If the collection is empty, I don't no need to iterate that collection again. I don't to waste my resources. For that reason, I would like to verify this. For each and every account record, SEC from LST account. That means what? For every account record, from the collection. I'm collecting each and every record from the collection. No. So now, is my voice audible now?
Yes, Firoz.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Now, so now in this case, whenever the query returns more than one record, at that time we have to store those records by defining the variable of the listed collection of that associated type. So we have to prepare a listed collection, and then in that listed collection we have to store those records. So once the records has been stored inside that listed collection, then we need to iterate that listed collection from starting to ending to collect each and every record over there. Now, so I'm iterating this collection. That means here I have two records are there. Some cases I may be getting 100 records also, 1000 records also. At that time, before iterating that, before collecting that, first of all, I want to know whether the collection is empty or not. To know whether the collection is empty or not, we have a method called as isEmpty method as part of list collection, because this is a list collection. Now you can apply all the list collection methods over here, no problem. Okay. Now, if the collection is not empty, here I'm using not operator over here. If the collection is not empty, then I'm iterating this collection from starting to ending. That means what I'm using enhanced for loop. In this enhanced for loop here, in this particular right side, we have to specify the collection name, where exactly the elements are available. And then in the left side, we can define one variable of that associated type. LST accounts is what? A list collection. List of what? Account. So just to define one account variable SSC. And then display that record over here. System.debug account name, each and every account record information, we can fetch that. Account SSC that name. Like that. System.debug industry name. We can fetch SEC.industry. Like that, we can able to iterate each and every record over here from the collection, from starting to ending, we can able to do over here. This is how we can able to fetch the information. Okay. If the query returns only one record, this is a process we have to follow. Okay. If the query returns only one record as a result, this is a process we used to follow. Suppose if the query returns multiple records as the result, this is the process we used to follow. Okay, this is the two conditions are available over here. Let me copy this. Now let me give that note point over here. In this case, if the SOQL query returns more than one record, it may be 2, 3, 4, anything, whatever, no problem. If the SOQL query returns more than one record as a result, then we have to store the result by defining a list collection of the associated type. By defining the list collection of associated type. For example, I will be giving the syntax over here. Syntax list of yes subject data type equals to, we can specify that object name. Equal to, we can specify the SOQL code. Returns multiple records. Now syntax. I've given that list of a subject data type. That means you have to specify the data type of that record over here. Object name equals to, you can specify the SOQL query, whatever you want. For example, I'm indicating this. List of account. LST accounts equals to, I'm preparing this SOQL query. Select ID, name, rating from account. If the query returns multiple records, I want to know how many records this query has written. I want to know that. System.debug to get the count. Collection size is, we have to specify LST account start size method. To know the number of elements available in the collection, we are using size method. And then to iterate each and to collect each and every record, I'm verifying. If the LST account is not empty, if the collection is not empty, then I want to store. I'm collecting each and every account record from LST accounts. I want to show that system dot debug account name is SAC.me system.debug rating value is like that. We can able to fetch that information also. These are the two simple steps we need to follow. Okay, upon preparing this SOQL query, we have to follow these two approaches. As part of static SOQL, so now if the query returns only one record as a result, then we can able to define the variable of that associated type. If the query returns multiple records as a result, then we have to store the result by defining a list collection. This is the concept of static SOQL. And the second one, dynamic SOQL. Then what do you mean by dynamic SOQL query? In dynamic SOQL query, we can add the conditions dynamically at runtime. Okay, we can add the conditions to the query dynamically at runtime. So what are the conditions you would like to add? What are the columns you would like to fetch? We can able to embed these columns in the conditions dynamically at runtime to the SOQL query. The possibilities. Now, in this case, how can we prepare this dynamic SOQL queries here? Now let's see. Now, in this approach, we can supply the columns and conditions to the SOQL query dynamically at runtime based on the need. In this case, how can we prepare this dynamic SOQL query? Dynamic SOQL query should be always enclosed in single quotation. Okay, that means storing in a string variable. Like previously what we did, we have prepared some SOQL query like this. Select ID, name, rating from account. If I'm specifying this SOQL query in the square braces, that is what static SOQL. I don't want static, I want start dynamic. So that we have to store inside a single quote. And then store this SOQL query inside a string variable. String some yes. Okay. So now dynamic SOQL query should be always storing inside the string variable here. Once the query has been stored inside the string variable, then we have to execute it manually. Static SOQL query will be executing automatically. We no need to execute the static SOQL. Okay, that will be executing automatically. But dynamic SOQL, we have to execute it manually by our own. How? By using database.query method. Okay, database.query method. In that one, we can specify the variable name where exactly the SOQL query has been stored, which will return the result in the form of list collection, list of account. That's it. Simple concept. Even though the query may be returning either one record or multiple records, whatever, dynamic SOQL query will be always returning the result in the form of list collection. This is the fundamental principle. Okay. Now let me give that step-by-step approach. Now, we need to store the dynamic SOQL query inside the string variable. Syntax. String variable name equals to, we can specify that. SOQL query. For example, I'm indicating accounts query. And then as a step 2, we need to execute the dynamic SOQL query manually by using database start query method. Query method which always returns a result in the form of a list collection. Which always returns a result in the form of a list collection. So for example, I'm going to be indicating this. My variable name is accounts query. That's it. From there we have to iterate. Same story. No change at all. Okay. From there, once the SOQL query has been executed, data will be storing inside your collection. We have to iterate this collection here. Same concept, no change at all. If the collection is not empty, iterate that collection, and then we can able to get each and every record. We can display that records also. That possibility is same concept, no change. Okay, this iteration process is same. Okay, just this particular part will be different over there. If it is a dynamic SOQL query, we have to use these two steps. We have to store that SOQL query in the string variable, okay, by enclosing in the single quote, and then execute it manually by using database query method. If it is a dynamic SOQL query, enclose in that square braces, which will execute automatically by default here. These are the differences between static and dynamic SOQL inside your Salesforce instance. Okay.
Sir?
Yes.
One question here.
Sir, how will we know which one to use when?
Now, that will be purely depends upon your requirement. Suppose if you are passing, if you want to add the conditions at runtime, then we can go with dynamic SOQL query. Now, for example here, as of now, you know static and dynamic both. Now, I will show you one small use case. Tell me which one is suitable and why. Okay. Now, let me show. For example, assume that I'm done with my graduation. I'm looking for a job in Hyderabad. Okay. Now, so I'm searching for some jobs information in Naukri. I'm going to the naukri.com website. I would like to search for the information here. Okay. I'm searching for the information. Upon searching the information from Naukri, here we have two text boxes are available. One is we can specify that skill set. That means what technology that you're looking for. Second one, location. Okay, location. Based on which location you are looking for the jobs. So now tell me, both are mandatory here. Do we need to enter skill set and location both mandatory?
No.
No. Optional. Okay, simply I will click on search button. Okay, here it is asking for me to specify that, okay, keywords or location, any one of this one. Suppose for example here I'm entering like as some designation, like as I'm entering some keywords like as some Salesforce. Okay, Salesforce. Click on search. Now tell me here what it will do now. I've entered the technology like a Salesforce developer, click on search. What it will do? It will be getting only those jobs whose technology will be having the value Salesforce. That means only the Salesforce related jobs. Which location jobs? All the locations. Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, Pune, Mumbai, all the locations. Because I did not enter location here. That means it is searching the data based on only on technology column. Suppose, for example, I'm entering the location as some Hyderabad because I'm having some location constraint. I'm looking for the job only in Hyderabad because I have set up my family in Hyderabad. So since almost some 10 years, I'm staying in Hyderabad. So I want to stay in Hyderabad for some more time also. So I'm looking for only for Hyderabad jobs. Now tell me how many conditions it will add now? 1 or 2?
2.
2 conditions. Why? One is on technology. That means it will fetch only those jobs whose technology which are available for Hyderabad location only, not for Bangalore, not for Pune, not for Chennai. That means how many conditions it is adding? 2 conditions. Now tell me, so do we need to enter this both the values mandatorily? No. Anyone you can enter. Depends upon the values. If I'm adding both these things, it will be adding the two conditions. If I'm adding simply the technology, okay, if I'm adding simply technology, it will add the condition based on technology only one condition. If I'm entering the location value, it will add second condition also, so that it is adding conditions dynamically at runtime. If the user enters some location also, it will add the condition, or else it won't add the location. That means that condition will not be added to my query. So that here, this is purely dynamic SOQL query. This is purely dynamic SOQL query. Based on the values you have entered, it will be adding the condition inside this. Okay, it will be adding the conditions inside this. Now, so in this case, what will happen depends upon the column values which have entered. It will add the condition dynamically at runtime. So we can go with that dynamic SOQL queries. Okay. Now, so depends upon your requirement. If you want to add the condition dynamically at runtime, then you can go with the dynamic SOQL, or else static fixed one. Now,
Excuse me, sir.
yes.
So when we search for a role equals to Salesforce developer or location is equals to Hyderabad, those two fields actually we're putting at where clause in the SOQL
Yes, right.
query.
Yes,
It's
right.
not
Correct.
the actual columns of the database, right? So how could we pass the columns in a dynamic situation?
Yeah, I will show you that one. When moving forward to that where class, I will show you how to hard code the condition value, how to pass the value at runtime for that SOQL query. Okay, to the where class. We'll see. Okay.
I mean,
By
to say
using the
like
parameter is the
columns.
procedure, I will show you that. Yeah, column values. Even if you're using where class, where technology equals to some value, location equals to Hyderabad, we are adding some condition based on some columns over there. Okay. So how to pass this value at runtime, I will show you the next sessions.
Okay.
Because one by one we'll see where class and then limit class, group by, order by, everything we'll see one by one.
So what is runtime?
Runtime means what? Okay, upon executing that application. While executing the application at runtime, it will be including that condition based on the value, input value entered by the user in the user interface. Okay. Now.
There is
So
one
now let's
question
see.
on the static SQL queries, case one, where we already know that it's only one record in database, we assign it to a variable, but I don't know like how many variables are there in that. Still, I go ahead and assign it to a variable. Then will it fetch only the first record?
No. It will give the error message to you. Okay, because whenever we are trying to be fetching the data from the object, okay, whenever fetching the data from the object, if the query returns multiple records, but you are trying to be storing in a single variable, it will be raising an exception. Boss, query is returning more number of records, but you are trying to store inside a single variable which cannot be accommodatable, so it will be raising an exception.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, so now let's see how can we prepare this SOQL queries. We'll go with that practical use cases. As of now, we have done the theoretical and the syntaxes, everything we have discussed. Now let's see the practical part. How can we use these SOQL queries to fetch the data from your Salesforce objects? Now, take a small use case. Write an Apex program to fetch all the account records from the object and represent on the debug log file. Okay, I want to collect all the account records from the account object, and then I want to show those records on my debug log file. Then how can we fetch the account records from the table by using SOQL query, and how can we display those records? Now let's see practically. So let me prepare a small class. I'm going to the developer console. Now I'm preparing a class. I'm preparing a class with the name database helper. Because I'm interacting with the Salesforce objects, that means database.com. That's what I'm giving that class name as database helper. It has prepared a class over here with the name database helper. Now I'm preparing a method inside this to collect all the account records. Now, public static void get all account records. I'm preparing the method with the name get all account records. I want to collect all the account records available inside my account object. So for that one, I'm preparing this SOQL code. I would like to prepare this method. Now I would like to write the SOQL code. Static SOQL, let me go with that. Now, select ID, name, rating, industry, annual revenue, active status, phone, fax. From account. How many records this query return? I don't know. How many records are there in the table? I don't know that. Table may be empty. Table may be having one record or multiple records may be there. I don't know. So at that time, what we can do, we can go with that list collection. List of account. List. Because I'm assuming that the query will be returning multiple records. So suppose you can raise a question, sir, if the table is empty, then nothing will be there in the collection. Collection is empty. If the table is returning only one record, the query return only one record, it will store that record inside a single collection. Because collection can store one record also, multiple records also, a number of records also, no problem. Okay, now, so it will be storing that information. And then what we can do, we can able to collect each and every record. Here we can able to display. What is the problem? Annual revenue. Now, I want to know how many number of records have been returned by this SOQL query. I want to know that. Number of records. I want to get that count. How can we get the count size? LST accounts dot size method. By using this size method, we will know how many number of records are available inside this particular collection. Now, so now here I'm going to be displaying that number of records available inside my object. We can able to see. Now I want to see each and every record. So I would like to verify if the LST accounts is not empty. That means if the collection is not empty, then iterate the collection from starting to ending by using enhanced for loop. Take as a normal for loop, just you can specify a colon in the middle, and then in the right side you can specify the collection name where exactly the elements are available. And then in the left side specify that variable, define one variable. So this LST accounts is what? A list collection. List of what? Account. So define one account variable. Account some ACC. That's it. Over. And display each and every record here. System.debug. Account name is I want to show. ACC dot name. System.debug. Rating value is I want to show ACC dot rating. You will be getting the intelligence feature also. No need to type everything manually by your own. System.debug annual revenue is SEC dot annual revenue. System.debug industry name is SEC dot industry. System.debug active status is SEC dot active. System.debug contact number, that means mobile number, is SEC dot phone. Fax number I want to show. Fax number is SEC dot fax. I'm displaying each and every field value separately in a separate row. And then once the first record has been displayed, and then second record, all the records will be getting visible. So I want to give a line break here. After displaying the record, I want to give a line break so that we can segregate the records. Let's save your code. Simple concept, but you have to do the practice on this one. Now, so now here in this case, first of all, I'm preparing this SOQL query, and then this query will be executing automatically because this is the static SOQL query, which will be executing automatically. It will return the result in the form of a list collection. So that here I'm defining a list collection over here. Okay, why I'm defining the list collection? Why not a single variable? Because this query returns how many records? I don't know. If you know, okay, if you have the confidence, if you know the query returns only one record, then define with single variable. If you don't know how many records the query returns, then go with the list collection as a best practice. As a safe side, we can define a list collection. That collection can store 0 records, 1 record, multiple records also can handle. That's what. Now, so now system.debug, look at the number of records. How many number of records has been written by this query? I want to know. So I'm collecting this collection, I'm getting the size. And then I'm going to iterating this collection from starting to ending by using enhanced for loop. And then I'm displaying each and every record information one by one. So this is how we are going to be preparing SOQL queries. Now, let me execute this piece of code. Database helper dot get all records. Okay, I'm invoking the method by using class name dot method. Click on
Sorry,
execute.
sir.
Yes.
You know how you just mentioned the class name dot, and then Salesforce has popped up that error message?
Yes. Not error message. It is populating the method name.
Just before, a second before that, it showed some text in red
No
color.
methods have been displayed. Okay, but you have to type that. We have to go back and then press dot again. It will get all the methods because it will be taking some time to fetch the methods of that class. That's what it is showing, that red color initially, and then once you go back and then once you press the dot again, it will be getting that information. It will be able to visible to you.
Okay, thank you.
Now select the debug only checkbox. Now we can see total number of records it has written as 54. Inside my account object here, totally 54 records are available. This is the first record information. Okay, this is the first record information. Name of this record, rating value, annual revenue value, industry, active status, phone number, fax number. And this is the second record information. Like that, we can see each and every record. One by one. All the records information we can able to see one by one, up to all the 54 records information we can see inside this. That possibility is available. Okay, this is how we can able to fetch the records from the object through SOQL queries. Okay. Let me copy this code.
Hello,
Yes.
sir. Sir, void stands for empty, right?
Void stands for it doesn't return anything to the calling environment. Okay. So now that means whenever I'm invoking this procedure will simply print the values. It won't return back to you again. That's what I'm giving this return type as void. Void means nothing. It won't return any value back to you. It simply will collect that value. It will print it onto the debug log file, but it won't return to that other environments here. Other procedure it won't return.
Okay, sir.
No. The next one. Let me give you some examples on this so that you can do some practice on this. Write an Apex program to fetch all the lead records from the object and represent on the debug log file. Like the similar way, prepare one more method. Second, next one. Write an Apex program to fetch all the hiring manager records from the object and represent on the debug log file. Is the second isn't. Third one. Write an Apex program to fetch all the user records from the object and represent on the debug log file. These are the three assignments over here. Complete these three assignments by tomorrow so that we can go ahead with that some more examples. I will show you some more styles of executing SOQL queries tomorrow. Some different styles I will show you which we are using in the real time. And then we'll see each and every class one by one, like as okay, all rows class, limit class, offset class, and then we'll be having that where class, group by everything. We'll see one by one. Okay, so do the practice on this one today. Tomorrow we'll see the continuation of this SOQL queries topic. It will be taking 2 to 3 more sessions. Okay, till this Sunday we'll be having this SOQL queries concept. Then we'll move forward to that one more concept, DML statements. How to perform the DML operations on the records, how to insert, update, delete, undelete, upsert, merge, all these 6 DML statements we'll see one by one with in detailed information.